I sent me to Fallow the other day to try their chefy take on the humble potato waffle. They serve theirs heavily spice dusted and with a couple of sharp sauces under a fried quail's egg. It tasted pretty good and I was keen to whip up something similar at home using bird's eye potato waffles and a few bits I knew I had in the fridge. I got the waffles into bake while I had to think about how to create a dish around them. I knew at this point I wanted to make a play on the Bloody Mary ketchup that was served alongside the waffle at Fallow with a load of semi-old cherry tomatoes I had in the fridge. I got them halved and into a non-stick pan cut side down over a high heat. I often start tomatoes like this for a sauce or chutney as loads of the surface area comes into contact with the pan, which aids caramelization. While the tomatoes cooked, I grabbed a few items I knew would work well in the sauce. It was while looking at the spices that I thought about taking things in an Indian direction, so I grabbed some curry leaves from the freezer. I also started to think about how I might use potatoes in a dish like this and transfer that knowledge to the realms of a crispy potato waffle to make my twist on a classic British tea. To the tomatoes, I added coriander seeds for pops of fragrance, chili flakes for heat, and more chili flakes for a bit more heat, a load of mustard seeds for texture and a hint of bitterness, and my frozen curry leaves for colour and a layer of botanical flavour that I knew would match really well with waffles. To bring things back to a ketchup direction, I added vinegar for acidity and sugar for sweetness. I wanted to keep the form of the tomatoes, so once everything had reduced a bit, I pulled it off the heat. I had essentially made a super chunky light tomato chutney, and I knew it would cut through the starch from the waffles well like the ketchup did at Fallow. Next, I turned my attention to colour and another layer of fragrance. I ripped a dying bunch of coriander into a mini chopper, peeled ginger and added that too. For a little heat, I added garlic, green chilli hot sauce, seasoned with salt and blitzed until smooth. I avoided acidity here as I knew the vinegar in the tomatoes was more than enough. I was relatively clear on the direction of the dish at this point, but I knew the chutney needed softening if it were to be a main element. I rippled through some cream from the top of a tin of coconut milk to solve that problem. Once the waffles were golden crisp and smelling delicious, I dusted them with a sharp spice blend called chaat masala as I was inspired by how the waffle was dusted at Fallow. I spooned the light rippled chutney onto a plate, laid on a couple of dusted potato waffles, quickly fried an egg for a nod to your classic British tea, got it on and spooned over dots of the coriander salsa. I was super happy with how this one turned out. It was balanced, the flavours were layered really nicely and it proved how versatile potato waffles can be if you give them just a little attention.